first to introduce myself. My name is Jack Curtis. I am the chairman, and as Sally is fond of saying, the president of United Kansas. It is a great honor to be here on the Garden City Community College campus to be able to speak with all of you and talk a little bit about United Kansas, a program that has become very near and dear to my heart, as well as those of us in these very stylish, wonderful polos that we just got. They're great, they're awesome. Big shout out to my vice chair, Sally, for making that happen. But being able to attend and speak to all of you about the opportunity that we are wanting to present to Kansans all over the state and make sure that they hear about what we are doing. I do have to let everybody know, unfortunately, Don Heineman was not able to join us today. He had a family emergency come up this morning, so we are keeping him in our thoughts and prayers as we move forward, as well as Steve Morris. Don and Steve very recently put together an op-ed in our favor that we have copies of, that I see some of you were able to get out of your seat, but we do have copies of it in the back. I would strongly encourage everybody being able to pick it up and read through it. Don just has such a masterful way of putting his words together, combined with his experience from the House of Representatives and being an elected official. Really helps to put an exclamation point with a lot of what we are trying to do here. Can everybody hear me all right? Excellent. Good on the perfect. All right. A little bit of my background. I am, excuse me, caffeine is wearing off. A little bit of background for myself. I grew up in a military family with both my parents having served in the United States Army. Dad retiring from Fort Leavenworth in 2011. So from a very young age, we were taught to take duty to country above all else, service to others, and if you ever see an issue, wanting to figure out what the best way to fix that is. I spent 4 wonderful years at Kansas State University picking up an undergrad in political science. And while no one ever goes to school with the idea of coming out and starting their own political party, this has nonetheless been one of the most exciting and humbling aspects of my life up to this point. United Kansas started about 2 years ago as something of an idea. It was myself and our executive director and treasurer, Aaron Estabrook, who was here in the back helping work the video camera, getting together and talking about everything that we felt like was wrong with politics today, because I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to say that politics has an issue, that the two-party system today is broken and that it is no longer responsive to the folks who have elected our representatives. Out of this conversation was born the idea that would eventually give way to United Kansas through the process of acquiring all of the signatures, petitioning, and we have just come up on a little over a year of having submitted that and a year of official party recognition. We want to take a little bit of your time today, and we do appreciate you joining us on this gorgeous Saturday out here to explain what United Kansas is, what it is hoping to offer, and why we're wanting to speak to everybody and work together as we develop all of this new idea moving forward. United Kansas is a modern party for a modern Kansas moving forward to make sure that everybody has a voice and that government is back to being representative of the constituents. My vice chair is a local to Western Kansas, to the area. I graduated high school out of the Kansas City area, lived in Manhattan for a while, and currently reside in Topeka. So it was just a little bit of a drive for myself coming out here. But I know Sally is a familiar face to most of you, and I will let her take the opportunity to explain how we tricked this sweet little old lady into doing this with us.
Young lady, just because I have white hair.
Right.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming. And those of you that served in education with me, it just warms my heart that you're here. And because part of the reason I'm doing this is education. And so I come to you through education. I used to be your state board of representative from this area. And so for those of you that don't know me, I was born in Dodge. I went to school through Dodge City School Systems. My husband back there took me to Liberal, or I took him to Liberal because he's from Wichita. for 40 years, and we're now back in his hometown of Wichita. Some of you know Scott Poor, and Scott is the individual that called me and said, Sally, there's a new party being formed, and I think you might be interested in it, and we would like for you to help. Well, I can't turn Scott down very often, but do you know what really sold me on this is when I met these 3 young gentlemen that are wearing the shirt like me. We are the executive board for United Kansas. But do you know how many opportunities when you have white hair that you get to work with younger people? You know, it's not every day. But when I saw their passion that they wanted to get into politics, but they had nowhere to go. I've been in politics, and I no longer have a party. So we had so much in common that I thought, yeah, I think I want to be with these gentlemen. And to me, 3 military gentlemen that have been in the military come out and served our country, well, maybe they have just a little bit to offer the state of Kansas and can teach us how to serve in another way when it comes to voting. Do you want me to just move on into why?
Sure.
Okay. Why I kind of got involved also, it kind of answers the next question he asked us. I read this book, and it says, why more parties? And what it explained in the book is we had the Republican Party, and it had conservatives and it had moderates. Then we had the Democrat Party, and we had, I don't know what you call them, but the far left and the moderates. As you can tell, I was in the Republican and not the Democrat, so I don't know as much about that party, okay? But I do know that as being a moderate, the party has changed so much from when I started serving you 15 years ago. And I have watched this party move to where I am out of the party. And it always kind of bothered me. So I read this book, and it explained it exactly. We no longer have parties within parties. We really have 2 parties. And that makes it available for us to have another party that's moderate. And this book says it very well and very eloquently, so it might be a good read for anybody that would like to understand that more. So that is why I am where I am today. I was tired of dealing with the legislature in Topeka, as my friend Dave Younger probably can agree with me, that it is not a nice place to be. Don Hyman, who would have told you so eloquently about serving, and if you didn't vote the party way, you got punished. You either lost your seat, your committee. Sometimes when you went back to the House, you had no chair to sit in. Now that's getting pretty nasty. And so also we have 2 issues that I'm going to get it out here. They voted to put the Constitution on the ballot this year because they didn't like what the Supreme Court is ruling. They didn't like what the Supreme Court is saying about funding public education, and they don't like what it's saying about abortion, that the state very much has voted on in the past and told them what they're wanting to do is not what the people wanted. And so it makes it really easy to help these gentlemen do a party where a candidate can serve you and not the party. And that's what we're about, and that's why.
Joining us also is one of our executive committee members out of the Wichita area who will be acting as our moderator and pace for the event, Mr. Brent Lewis.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you all for, turn it off. It's gonna warm up. Thank you all for being here. I just want to serve you to facilitate what will turn into a discussion as we asked our leadership a few questions to just kind of bring out what it means to be United Kansas and it said what it intends to offer to residents of Kansas, and then to start to have, there we go, then have some conversation about what you would like to see on offer to improve our political system. I am from Wichita. I left with the Army for a while and then moved back to Wichita. And I know in the middle 2000s when I got out of my service, I joined the ranks of 6 out of 10 Americans for some time now who believe both political parties do such a poor job of representing our interests that we feel like we just need a third major party. And it's consistently been 6 out of 10 Americans, according to Gallup, have had that sentiment. And I was unaffiliated and very proud of my independence. And really, as it comes to thinking what's it mean to be a part of a United Kansas, I realize now that independence streak leaves me voiceless. And it just keeps turning off, sorry. Leaves me voiceless in the political system, right? Because there's no way to organize and assert my values and my priorities. So I was complaining about the lesser of two evils, and here we go again, not realizing I had responsibility because I was not in any way organizing to assert what I wanted to see in the arena. And so thankfully, we now have a United Kansas option for me where I do feel that it's representing my values and my priorities. And so as we're going to come back then to our leadership, Jack, if you'll continue on with what does it mean to be United Kansas, and why is this the time for United Kansas here in our home state?
Absolutely. So why United Kansas? Why now? First and foremost, as I said earlier, it is no stretch that the two-party system is not working and has failed us. What's worse is that the current system is rife with issues and concerns that cause a negative predisposition against it. When you tell someone that you identify as a Democrat or Republican, they feel that they can instantly know everything about you and everything that you're going to say politically. And there is so much more to Kansans and to people in general than that. Brent brought up the Gallup poll that says that 6 out of 10 Americans are dissatisfied with the two-party system. We also like to take a look at Kansas Speaks, which is a public opinion survey put on by the good folks at Fort Hays State University up the road that identifies Kansas every year with what they think about ongoing issues and the current system. From that information that we've taken a look at, folks who identify as independent or unaffiliated, straight in the middle without any political leaning one way or the other, makes up almost 30% of the Kansas population, up over 25. And when we begin to expand that view a little bit more, folks who are independent but lean left, folks who are independent but lean right, individuals who have been left behind from the political parties, just like Sally has, that number jumps to 50% of Kansans. Half of our state does not currently fit into this column A, column B dichotomy that we've created. And because of that, as Brent mentioned, they are without a voice in the system, and it leaves you taking a look at what's the lesser of two evils. United Kansas has been started with the idea of being able to provide a voice to those caught out in the middle, but more importantly, a voice for Kansas. So much of our politics these days is covered by national interest interests, the good folks in Washington, D.C. trying to figure out what's going on around the world. But that doesn't make for good politics here in our state. Folks say Republican, they think Texas and Florida. Folks say Democrat, and they think New York and California. Kansas, on the other hand, because we are United Kansas, excuse me, because we are United Kansas, we do not have any national party that we are looking at. We do not have any sort of concerns beyond our borders. And so our true north, our shining star, is and will always be our home, Kansas. It will always be our local communities. It will always be our local businesses, our local education, and making sure that Kansans feel secure in their state, making sure that Kansas is a great place for folks to want to move to start families, start businesses, and contribute to their version of the American dream. Why United Kansas? Because now is the time that we need it. Kansas is at a pivotal point in its history. We are at a crossroads that will define our future for generations to come.
Now, you've alluded to the fact that for United Kansas to successfully represent those who are not represented right now, it means there's going to be some differentiation from what's happening right now. And so can you tell us a little bit about the priorities that are going to guide United Kansas to serve the state differently than currently is on offer?
Absolutely. Our priorities are Kansans first. So making sure that Kansas has enough economic opportunity for businesses to come in and develop, but also making sure that the businesses that are here to stay are taken care of and looked after. We also want to make sure that our farmers, especially the heart of western Kansas out here, are secure in their farms, able to take care of themselves, because good farms mean good food for good people here in our state. We also believe in expanding medical access for folks. The current system is unsustainable with access to it. Folks should not have to choose between being able to afford bills for the month, making a payment on their car, making the rent or their mortgage payment, and having to pay that emergency bill because they had to go to the hospital. It breeds additional issues because if you're not able to go to the hospital for an annual checkup and something gets missed, that becomes an issue later on that could be catastrophic. There is no reason anymore not to have the Medicaid expansion. On top of that, we're also looking at education, which I will let Sally speak about so passionately.
I'm on?
You are on.
Okay. You know, I'm not very passionate about education at all, or public education. No. I'm concerned. I'm scared. And I'm horrified at the direction that our legislature wants to take public education in the state of Kansas. I do not want it to follow the ALEC method. That's ALEC.com. That is what the Republicans have been using as their basis and their platform for the past, I know, 5 years. They may have been using it longer than that, but I personally know 5 years. I do not want to go by the way of Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. I would like to say that public dollars are for public education. And I know that's very controversial, especially when they don't call it vouchers anymore. They call it school credits. That's what they want you to say. However, the one thing that we know in the state of Kansas, and we have the facts to prove it, is the only way you can move out of poverty into a middle income is education. We know that the largest gap for education going in is kindergarten, and we just lost federal funding for Head Start which means the state will have to pick up that or not encourage preschool. And we know that preschools are very much the key for every child getting the same start, whatever. We are very much for local control. And if you have been following the legislature lately, they have been wanting to tell your city and county governments what they can do and what they can't do, and your local school board. And one of those issues that passed, I believe it passed, is the bond issue. How many, for property tax, how much you can have and how much you can't. We need to redirect our thinking. We need to stop thinking the old way and quit letting them tell us that taxes are bad. Some taxes are bad. Some taxes are not being used in the correct method that we think that we have given them for. Maybe there needs to be a readjustment of those taxes because property taxes may not be doing what they were supposed to do, and we, over time, have changed. Maybe we need to look at some of those things. But we need to make sure that people understand that when they give to education, it's an investment. Those tax dollars are being used as an investment because they're going to come back to us if we have a state that is educated, because that's going to help our economy. So not all taxes are bad. If they get too much to where the people can't pay them, that's when it becomes bad, and we need to rethink or redo. We want to be a party. We want to be a party that gives the candidate the chance to think maybe a little outside of the box, maybe think of some new ideas, and not always have to follow the status quo. We've got to do some changing, and we need to start that change now. And so I believe in what we're trying to do because we need to further education. It's important to what we do. We need to think about that tax structure and to make us a state that people want to live in, even in their retirement.
And Sally, you said something there that I just want to make sure we capitalize on. I like saving it for the end because it is without a doubt my favorite value that we have as a party, but it really is that local control. Too much of politics is this almost monolithic structure coming in to try and tell everybody these are our values, so you have to adopt these values, and this is what we're going to vote on and how we're going to vote. With United Kansas, our goal, our entire purpose for speaking here and having this town hall is to meet with members of the community and to understand what the pain points are. Garden City is going to have different needs from liberal Kansas, is going to have different needs from Dodge, which will be different from Wichita, Topeka, or the Kansas City area. And so we want to make sure that as we are representing every part of Kansas, we are representing the needs of every Kansan and making sure that they're taken care of. Our candidates will look a little different across the state as we put them forward, but their ultimate unifying goal will always be what is best for the state.
I think the one thing we have not addressed, and we didn't address it on purpose, and that is some of the social issues around transgenders. I don't know the political word for, okay.
Social issues.
Social issues, okay. Abortion, those type of issues. we're spending, I don't know how much time in Topeka on these social issues. They're not part of government. They shouldn't be in your lives that way. Those social issues are family issues that government needs to stay out of. Those are issues that are between you and your family, and in some cases, your doctor. They don't need to be telling these doctors what they can and cannot do for your family. And that's why we as executive board have purposely not brought up social issues to you. It's because we believe they don't belong in politics. So we would rather focus on infrastructure, environment, being a democracy, making sure we grow in a healthy economy through education and have economic opportunity. That's what we would rather focus on.
And the focus on bringing politics back to Kansas, it can help in another way, because we just see the terrible extent that Washington, D.C. has been consumed by dysfunction, destructive politics, the cycle of retribution. And it's finding its way to the state capitals, and we're seeing it in Topeka. And so as we think about what it would mean to have different priorities, there's also a little bit about how do we change the culture here too. And so how as United Kansas can we work to push back on this culture of destruction and retribution, and from this hyper partisanship, polarization?
How to push back on the hyper-partisanship. This is one of my favorite questions that I get asked anytime we're doing this sort of thing. What we're looking at with United Kansas is pushing back on three fronts with this. The first is by adopting the values that we have and making sure that we're putting the state first. Our goal is not to line pockets. It is not to build some new political machine to out-party the parties. Our goal is to make a positive impact on our communities, on our homes, and on our state. Because of that, we're not engaging in any of the nasty, unnecessary political rhetoric, and making sure that we're putting our state first and its citizens. The second aspect is by the fashion that we are trying to go about this. During the last election, 49, almost 50 races across the state were uncontested. These are locations that were not given any opportunity for a voice, any opportunity for a choice, and has just been told this is how you're going to be functionally ruled in the political spectrum. So our goal is going to be focusing on these uncontested races to be able to make sure that folks have the opportunity to pick something else, have the opportunity to exercise their voice in a new way. And the third option is through our current reform to bring back fusion voting. Fusion voting is a form that was prevalent all across the United States, and Kansas chose to get rid of about 100 years ago in the early 1900s through a handful of stipulations and legislative actions. Fusion voting was a way that minor parties were able to share candidates and thus share accountability with the major parties. As United Kansas, as our values are Kansas, we're able to find those individuals who might currently identify as a Republican and be running, might currently identify as a Democrat, could identify as a Libertarian, but still want to make sure that they put the state first. So the great example of what that would look like, we have John Smith, who is a Republican, is an exceptional individual and wants to make sure that his community is looked after and that Kansans are put first. We have Joan, who is a Democrat and has some good ideas, maybe not some great ones, but just doesn't have all of the right ideas that we would be looking for. So we, as the third party, would also nominate John Smith as our candidate. So you would be able to see him on the ballot as a Republican, Joan as a Democrat, and then John once again as United Kansas. This would give you an opportunity to vote for John regardless of him being a Republican or not, because as we've mentioned with the current political sphere that it is just so toxic that folks cannot bring themselves to vote for what they perceive as the other side. But it shows John as a good, hardworking, and committed Kansan who is committed to putting the state first. At the end, all of the votes for John would be tallied together, and that would give his final total score. We do have an example of a ballot in the back and what that would look like. I see that some of you currently have it. It is a very easy, straightforward process that we are hoping to bring back. Every state in the country had it in some way, shape, or form towards the end of the 19th and the start of the 20th century. New York currently has it and uses it very successfully. So it is shown to work, it is shown to help hold the parties accountable and make sure that we are maintaining more accountability with our elected officials.
Now, we're gonna try to start to bring a broader discussion here. So if you have maybe some questions coming to mind, comments or concerns, then we want to hear those as we kind of finish up thinking about another terrible aspect of the national politics that have found their way to Topeka and other state capitals, is the fact that no matter popular support for a proposed law, broad support or no support at all, it's not predictive of the success of passage of the bill. So we can broadly support a new policy. It has the same chance to become law as something that we don't support at all. And we're seeing that trend now creeping into the state capital as well. And so we're really thinking about how are we going to ensure that in Sedgwick County, where I'm from, we often feel like the stepchild of Johnson County. You know, like why does it seem like we're getting backseat treatment here when we have our needs? And I understand in western Kansas sometimes there's a similar sentiment. Like, why are all these other needs being addressed, and what's going on with the things that are essential to our lives? And so can you all talk to us a little bit about, and then we want to start to maybe broaden this discussion about how can United Kansas ensure that voices in Sedgwick County and in western Kansas are being heard and our needs are being met?
So I know I've answered most of the questions first as we've gone through this, but I would like to let our resident Western Kansan kind of speak to how we're going to make sure that Topeka has to listen and United Kansas will support Western voices.
I think Western Kansas, in my experience of watching the state, probably has a better answer to this than any other part of the state, because we know how important it is to step up, to speak up, and to act. And it's been our culture out here. What I am seeing that worries me is the decline out here in that attitude. I talked to a teacher the other day, and the teacher said, these kids don't really care if they learn or not. The apathy, the complacency, thank you, of our society, and then the taking on the, when you feel like that you're hurt, you're becoming a victim, and the becoming the victim. I tried to do it, bring a town hall meeting into one of our western Kansas towns. I called 15 people. Now, some of you know me very well and some of you don't, but when I get down to calling 15 people just to host an event, That's pretty serious. And this is their excuses. They liked the idea, but they were scared that it would hurt their business. Okay? They liked the idea, they've never done it before. They liked the idea, but, oh, maybe they just didn't have time. Western Kansas was discovered by some pretty gritty people. We weren't discovered, and we didn't come out here to be part of the state with complacency. Or, oh, maybe we'll just let somebody else do that. We came out here because we had a purpose of wanting to support our families, to have a good life, and that's what we're about. We've lost that. We don't have people standing up and saying, I'll take the hit. You know, I'll take the hit if it's for a good thing. Where's our grit? You guys may have it that's in the room today. You may have it and you may understand change, but change is hard, and we've been the same way for a long, long time. So, what do I want you to do about it? You can, one town we've gone to is starting what they call a Buffalo Club. All they do is go to lunch together. That's all they do. Do you not have a group that you go to lunch together? Well, then maybe you can join another group that goes to lunch together, and maybe you can talk about United Kansas. You'll have some in there that doesn't like it, and some that do. But it's a good way to start. We're in the baby steps. We're in the steps of looking for candidates to run. We're in the steps of asking you to visit about it. We're asking you, some of you, to change parties. Some of you may not wish to, but you still like the idea and you think it's a good thing. We are at this step because we have been following our fusion voting up to this. And Aaron, can you explain where we are on the fusion voting before he answers the question?
Yes.
So they all know what we've been doing, that we haven't been sitting around for a year and not doing anything. Because we're going to be a party whether this fusion voting works or not. But this is what we've been doing up until now.
So as Jack mentioned earlier, fusion existed in Kansas until 1901. In 1901, really in the 1890s, the legislature in Kansas was made up of fusionists, they called themselves, and it consisted of populists and Democrats and farmers' unions and different parties across the spectrum. But they united under one party, and those populists took back the governor's seat. They won 58 different Senate and House seats, and they sent people to Congress. But what happened was it scared the rest of the country. Kansas was sending people from an unknown party to Congress, and that woke up a lot of people. So when the Republican Party gained back control in Kansas, the first thing they did was ban fusion. And then other states around the country banned fusion as well in 1901. The court, the Supreme Court at the time, was made up of Republican justices. All of them recused themselves from hearing the case at the time. So it's never been argued before a court in 120 years. And we took the case once we filed. We had two sets of candidates that filed, one in Salina, one in Hutchinson, and they were both Democrats, and we had J.C. Moore running as a Republican as well. But those two Democratic candidates wanted to be United Kansas candidates. When they won their primaries, because they were uncontested, then it triggered fusion. They now had been nominated by us, and they had been nominated by the Democratic Party. Under state law, that requires 10 days for them to pick one of the two parties. That is when we entered in our lawsuit. We filed a lawsuit in both districts of Saline County and Reno County. They consolidated the case into Saline County, and we argued that, which unfortunately we did not prevail, but we expected not to win at district court because they hold the state statute as it is. So we have appealed that decision directly to the state Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court last week received our motion to go directly to them and skip the appellate court. We want to do that to expedite the process so we can get this controversy settled before the 2026 elections. But that brings us to where we are, I think, Sally? Yeah.
Thank you. It was interesting enough that the state legislature this year, we got far enough that, you know, it's already illegal in the state. So we're trying to overchange that. Well, they decided that on House Bill 2056, they decided that they better make it illegal, doubly illegal to have fusion voting. And so they wrote another law and passed it this year that fusion voting is illegal in the state of Kansas. So we must be getting somewhere with something. We're waking up somebody. So that's kind of, but I ask you today to think about this and to think about how you can help personally be involved. And I'll give Jack a chance to answer this question. Or was I the second one?
No, you're good.
Sometimes I get bossy.
So, the question as to how we're going to make sure that we're supporting Western Kansas especially, it starts with what we're doing today. It starts with these town halls, being able to invite all of you out to join and participate, because it's not just us being up here and saying this is everything that we value as United Kansas, but it's also listening to the ideas and values that you have out here. Because while we can all agree that Kansas is a wonderful state to call home and a beautiful state to call home, we know that we need to make sure that we're protecting it. The needs of Western Kansas, though, are going to be unique from Sedgwick County, from Johnson County, but we need to make sure that the answers are coming from the folks in the area living their lives. And so with that, we're going to kind of transition. We have our values as a party, but we want to be able to hear from all of you what your values are, what your issues are, where the pressure points are and the pain in the day-to-day from the ongoing politics that we have, and then any ideas or concerns that you might have so we can work together to find the best solution.
And as we're going to do that, really what makes our voices heard is effective representation. Really what it comes down to, that's what our system is about. And I want you to think about the power of a United Kansas to ensure responsive representation. Because right now, depending on which state you're in, so many of them have become single party rule, one or the other. You know, depending on where you go, it's, you know, which one. And so there's really no accountability. And in fact, the accountability goes the wrong way. If I'm not extreme enough, they're going to get rid of me, right? One way or the other. And so if you think about what a United Kansas provides is accountability to this majority of us who feel unrepresented, because with United Kansas, we now have the power to put a great candidate who can't get through a party primary on the general ballot. Right? I'm sure many of you can think of someone who would do a fantastic job of representing your community, but you know they could never get through some party primary to have even a chance to serve. Well, United Kansas gives us that opportunity. And in fact, we had a couple of United Kansas candidates early on, like people didn't even know what we were talking about. I mean, still it's a challenge, right? But in Leavenworth County, 2 candidates for county commission ran as United Kansas. straight up. And they had really a tremendous response from voters. Party activists, of course, are going to hate it. Why would they want someone else trying to, have some influence? But voters are hungry for more options. And so these candidates in Leavenworth County, very conservative area of the state, outperformed Laura Kelly. And they were on the most shoestring a budget, and would get to a door and they'd say, which party are you in? They'd say United Kansas, and people say, what? But that door stayed open and there was engagement. And the typical response, if you're the wrong party for that door, they just slam the door on you. There's just not even an opportunity to discuss an issue or a voice be heard there. And so really when you're thinking about what United Kansas is offering, it's a path to have responsive representation. That's how our voices are heard. That you have someone who, if they're not listening and they needed United Kansas to get over the top, right? We don't have to become the biggest kid on the block. But we can send a message to those representatives, say you can't get there without us. You can't get there without us. And the second largest number of voters in the state of Kansas are unaffiliated. Right? And we know, of course, they have their beliefs, but they're not committing to a party. And we know there's a decent number of people in parties who really don't believe in it, but they just want to vote in the closed primary. And so they're registered so they can participate in that way. And so as we now open up to broader discussions, hoping that we've kind of answered some of the basic questions maybe that are in your mind. Just maybe, are there other things you'd like to know? Questions you want answered? Just maybe a comment about how you see the political landscape and maybe how you see United Kansas?
So, if I go to the courthouse on Monday morning, I want to change my party affiliation. I can register as a United Kansas.
Absolutely.
That's an official
Yeah.
party.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go down to the courthouse. We have our wonderful website where we put out our core values, our beliefs, and a lot of our information. We have a link directly to the website where you're able to go in and take care of that, all from the comfort of your own home.
So how many United Kansans do you have right now?
About 1,000.
Oh, excellent.
And so,
We have the least amount in western Kansas.
Unfortunately.
well, again, just from doing two years in the legislature, so, I had to loan myself money to run a primary. I say run a primary. I didn't have any, I was one of those people that didn't have anybody running against me. But I had to put signs out and, I wanted to do those things. That's expensive. And
Absolutely.
then if you have somebody running against you, is there some help to fund a primary, to fund, that election as you get into it? Because, most of us can't do that on our own, so.
There's our treasurer.
Yeah, so one thing that we haven't said is we're taking donations. As a treasurer, you need to make sure that you always say that. But candidate support's crucial. And that's where I've been a candidate for State House. I've ran for State Board of Education. I've recruited dozens of candidates to run across the state. And they always tell me the same thing after they're done. They couldn't believe how little party support they got. How they expected the party to come in and do everything, and it never did. It never showed up.
Well,
And so what we're doing is building
probably
Please.
get way in front, ahead of myself, but, you know, say you get a United Ten person elected, so you have to that Don would have a better understanding, or Steve of this, but you have a majority leader and you have a minority leader, and they kind of assign those committees. And my friend John Dahl, who's not here today, you know, that he would probably understand this better, but, you know, John at one time was a Democrat, and then he switched to Republican, and then I think he went to Independent, and, you know, I'm not sure where John is now, but when he made that run, they took all his committees with him.
Sure.
And then you're just sitting in your office all day, you know, kind of, well, you're not, but, you know, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for that vote on the floor, so that he had one vote. So how does that work when you get to the Capitol, when you get that candidate there? Are they going to be put on
There's
committees?
two answers. One is if Fusion's around, then they can caucus with their party, the major party, so that eliminates that problem entirely. But if Fusion's not around and they're their own standalone candidate, the legislative research says, you know, it just takes two people to caucus. And so we get two people, we start you have United Kansas Caucus, you right now might be a deciding vote in the legislature on the supermajority, on a veto. That might, you use that leverage for chairs or committee assignments and work your way up through that process.
But part of the importance is now you have a new narrative. You have a new story being told about what's happening in our capital. Because now we have a different set of priorities, and we have a different way of approaching politics. And so it's, what does it mean to have a constructive voice and a bridge building voice? Because right now everything's, you just see just a bunch of destruction and tearing down. And so even if it's a small number, it's a completely different story. And as we're looking at policies, we're not trying to come from on high, you know, with the tablet, and here's what you better start caring about. As a modern party, and we're looking at what does it mean to use data and things like that, it needs to inform more than how we're going to just try to get elected so we can tell people what to think and how to feel about it. The data can also inform the priorities and the policies. And so we're really trying to form a modern party and building it. And so it's kind of exciting because I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and it has that spirit. We're going to build this thing, and you can be a part of it. You can help build it in that way. I mean, it's moving, but there's that opportunity. There's no way a merry band of people go into either of these major parties and change what they've been doing for centuries. It's not happening. So this is our chance to really build a new way to do politics. And it's that whole, keep doing the same thing, expect different, right? We're crazy. And so this is my exercise. I'm not crazy. Now, it's just not easy, but we have this opportunity, and that's what's exciting, is we're working with data scientists, and we're really trying to think, what does it mean to be a new party, and in the way it's got to be done differently.
It's going to take somebody to start us off with some grit. Because you're absolutely right. If they end up there being the number one person, they've got to be able to handle that grit of being number one until we can get number 2 and 3 up there. And, you know, you don't build Rome in a day. And so I don't think we're going to be able, maybe it'll surprise me, but I think when you're beginning, if you get 5 candidates to the State House in the same year, oh my gosh, I'd be happy to get 2 the first time we run in the State House at the same time. It's a process that takes time, that you've got to be willing to have the grit to go through.
Preliminary data says that maybe a quarter of the seats in legislature can be immediately up for grabs because of the demographics and the partisan line. Because right now everything's aligned for only a bipolar world, right? And so if we actually have a new option in the middle, it completely changes the formula. And so just the initial look at it is there's a lot of opportunity, enough that we can be smart about it and say, these are the ones that we really think can be in play, and mean it. Like, not just like, let's make it close, but we can actually compete to win in many of these races. Not, I mean, when I say many, I mean, we're looking at maybe a quarter of the legislature could instantly be up for grabs if we have the right candidates.
You had another?
Well,
He's thinking
I
through
do,
the
again,
process.
I'm just trying to.
That's okay, we
you know,
need to
again,
think through
I'm not trying
this.
to be a Debbie Downer, I'm just
No.
trying to process this, because when I left, you know, there were a number of Republicans in the Kansas City metro area that my Democrat friends were, you know, we are going to bust the supermajority.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. And guess what? It didn't happen. Yeah, and the supermajority got strong. And, you know, that's what I'm just trying to process. Are you identifying those races that, I could give you some names, but I'm not going to right now, that, you know, this person is ripe to pick off, be it somebody else. It didn't happen this last term. How can you guys make it happen? And I argue with my friends all the time. That's gonna take money. It's gonna take the right candidate
Yeah.
to get out there and get their feet on the ground, but it's also gonna take some dollars.
So I will say, you know, we started this talking about that United Kansas is a modern party for a modern Kansas. And with that, we are looking at a lot of really cool things, kind of, I don't necessarily want to say behind the door or behind the curtain, because that makes it sound like we're trying to intentionally gatekeep it. But a lot of really, really neat opportunities on the back end of everything. Leveraging the only public opinion survey put out to Kansans across the state, United Kansas, to look at those areas where folks are feeling the pressure. Taking the information from the last election cycle and redistricting that happened in 2022 to see how borders were shifted, who's affected, who's in certain areas, who's out of certain areas, and being able to identify, first and foremost, if it was uncontested and it's in an area that's hungry for change, which a lot of the uncontested races are, being able to put those up first. Our goal is making Kansas a better place, being able to bring a respectful amount of discourse and conversation back into politics, and not all just being under the whims of a few select individuals at the top. It is going to take the right folks. It is going to take, unfortunately, just a little bit more money than anyone ever wants to admit to. But we are also coming up with the necessary tools to be able to make it work and make it happen. And we are really hoping to be able to leverage a lot of what this modern century, this modern decade, 2025, has to offer to us in the way of those tools.
So are you guys kind of targeting, and again,
Targeting uncontested races, data-driven, in districts that are tiered, so.
are you looking at the next legislative cycle?
Yeah.
Do you hope to
Yeah.
have some candidates in? Is that your
2026.
primary goal?
We have to
Yep.
run candidates in 2026 when
Okay.
the party goes away.
Okay.
I think it was interesting, Dave, when we were doing the state school board races. I'm on a path that 5 of them were running. We got 3 elected. We lost 2. One of the elections, I tried to get the gentleman to run as a United Kansan instead of go through the primary. And he says to this day, he's now a United Kansan. He switched. He would have won. But when it got down to the general, they only had the choice again between the Republicans and a Democrat. There was no other choice. He would have won that race. And if we can, he learned, you know, and if we could hold him up a little bit as a person that wished they would have done something. To me, when I looked at this, I thought, this is an opportunity for somebody not to do a primary.
And not
And,
only,
you know,
The other part is, we have to run a statewide candidate in 2026, so there has to be an attorney general, and secretary of state, insurance commissioner, U.S. senator, or governor because state law says you have to get 1% of any statewide office in order to maintain party recognition. So we will have at least one statewide office that we run.
And
So-
one, oh, yeah.
Sally doesn't know it yet, but we're putting her up for governor.
He doesn't know yet that I said no.
Well, and one
And
thing
if
that-
he doesn't say no, there's a gentleman in the orange shirt that would say something more than no.
Well, and one thing that United Kansas opens up, not only opportunity for an excellent candidate who will just get washed out in the primary to go ahead and straight to the general. We can get that person on that general ballot. They know they can win. We can do that for them. We can also give a current legislator, once we start to have something, we can give them that opportunity to say, I'm gonna stand on principle and I'm gonna actually put the interests of the people I represent ahead of what this party is demanding of me, knowing they could have that opportunity to say, I will get reelected as United Kansas.
You
Because
could
I will not go through that primary again. I don't have to. And so the pieces could start to come together in this fashion to where once we just have that, if you will, that foothold, now we can start to expand that influence.
How the other parties react is out of our control, but that'll be interesting if they punish individuals for anything, for associating with us.
Oh, yeah. There's people that was too scared to come, to even hear about it. See, Dave, you could run again. They talk about me, but you could run again. You did an awesome job. Did you have something to say, Steve?
But I do want to remind you that voters are hungry. I mean, the data's there, that voters want more options. And so, and I wanted to illustrate that previous experience where we really had two people just literally out of the gates, just give it a try on a shoestring budget and had great interactions. I mean, where other people would have had the door slammed in their face. And so there is that interesting play. Of course, people who say, well, I'm not giving up my power, so what's all this about? What are you trying to do? Change it up. But the people want that. People want option. People want, more responsiveness. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. The people want it. And, I think the people are the ones that ultimately have to say.
I see a hand.
So why did you go with fusion voting instead of something that really third parties can get traction on, like ranked choice voting? Because as soon as you start running candidates against Governor Kelly, you're not helping the balance. It's taking votes away from the moderates and leaving the others, whereas something like ranked choice voting allows the extremists to see the number one Republican gets it, but on the Republican side, but the moderates are in the end are the ones that benefit from that. Instead of, we're only getting to vote once, the minor party takes away from the secondary party, in our case would be the Democrats, to be able to act as that. I mean, it just seems like everything you're saying would be amazing if I could vote in a way that legitimates that idea instead of.
If you compare the two, so ranked choice voting, you actually have to field as a different candidate.
Yeah.
And it has to be legislated, right? So we have to get the legislators who would have to give up their advantage and their power to implement that change. If you compare that to diffusion, this is a constitutional right. And so there's litigation to restore this right. And if we decided Laura Kelly was the right person to represent the state compared to the alternative, we're not fielding another candidate in that instance. We're saying we also nominate a Laura Kelly or a John, whoever was the example. So in fact, the fusion prevents a spoiler situation in the first place if there's the right candidate.
Right. And this works in the case of many small parties.
Sure.
Right? I mean, historically, you're talking about the 1900s, there's many small parties that unite behind a candidate, and then that's how you get this. In this case, the only way it's going to work is if you don't run candidates. Because as soon as you start running candidates, you're going to be taking away from, you'll be just the secondary party. It'll be Republicans versus United Kansas and Republicans against Democrats.
There's 50 districts that couldn't muster a candidate. So
Right.
there's one-party races in 50 districts. We will be the second party.
Well, no, the Democrats have an initiative this year that they're trying to run a candidate in every race.
They've
as well.
had that every year that I've been alive.
I know. The point
What's up?
isn't to run a candidate, the point is to get elected.
Well, they're strategic.
Two-party races.
If think about, yeah, what Fusion allows is we can evaluate every single race in theory, right? So let's say we look at a race and we say, these are two excellent candidates. We're just not even getting involved. We're just staying out of it.
Right.
But let's say we look at another race and say, we can see with one of the two major party candidates, we have someone we really think would do the best job to represent that district, then we can ask for that cross nomination. We also want to support you. So there we're additive. It's when we see a district where either there's no one that's gonna provide solid representation, then United Kansas says we need to ensure that we have that solid representation. So we have this range of options how to engage in the political process.
So who's the we in this case? Like, we're talking about governor, and we have somebody who's a member of United Kansas says, you know what, I wanna run for governor, and you're like, no, we actually need to support the Dem-" Who's the we that gets to decide if we're running another candidate?
So
Or,
the nomination process works like this. They nominate somebody that wants to run, contacts the chair, reaches out to the executive committee decides when to hold a convention. We don't have primaries. And when that convention's held, members of the party select who the candidates are based on the district. They need to get nominated by somebody that lives in the district, and then they need to have a second for that motion. And then there's a vote to decide who that candidate is supported.
so you get to, like, let's say you blow the doors off of the Libertarian Party, and you have twice as many, you have 50,000 United Kansans. How many times do you think you wouldn't be running a governor if you had 50,000 people registered?
Well, it comes down to how strong of an individual for the governor can be presented. I will come out and say I think Governor Kelly has been doing a great job, especially kind of walking that tightrope between being a minority governor in a supermajority locked state. But that is almost a product of the system that we find ourselves in. And so this is that opportunity to reshape that and create something better. Will we field a governor every single time that there is one up for election? Absolutely not. We don't have to. The current system means that Democrats have to throw somebody at it. Is it always the best option? Maybe. Is the one that the Republicans are putting up there always the best option?
So, are you working with the Democrats, I would say out in western Kansas, where we really don't have there's Democrats, but there's no usually viable candidates, to get them to fusion your candidates? I don't know how you say it. The Democrats then
To
say, you know what, we have these people, is there active talks in those minority, or in?
If there was a Democrat candidate in Garden City that was standing up to run, sure, they would be interested in our party.
Other way around. You're running somebody in Garden City. You talk to the Democrat Party and say, hey, we want you to be support. What is the
Yeah.
we want you to fuse.
So
Fusion.
So that's a great question, and we have a real-world example and explanation to this. We ran two wonderful candidates out of Leavenworth County, both of them running for the second and third precincts out that way for county commission, who reached out to us and said, hey, we want to run pure third party. We want to run straight United Kansas. It worked out because one of them was the only Democrat in the area running for the county, and the other one was a former Republican who become disillusioned with how far the party has drifted.
The Democrat had actually ran before as a Democrat and beat her own self as a United Kansas person.
Yeah.
So we looked at trying to encourage them to fuse because that is one of the principles that we are committed to. They chose not to. The other parties at that time didn't see anything worth with it. We're not going to break Democrats' arms to fuse with us. We are constantly being told that a blue wave is just around the corner for as long as I've been around, for as long as Aaron's been around. Sally, how long have you been hearing about a blue wave coming to wash away Kansas?
The last U.S. Senate, the last Democrat elected to the U.S. Senate was 1932.
1932. Wow. Our goal is to do the right thing. We're not doing this for party chairs or committees or anyone trying to win lobbyists and pad bank accounts. We're doing this because the two-party system is broken. The two-party system is failing, and this is no longer a state where folks want to actively live. This is the right thing to do for a better future.
Our two real-world examples are Jason Croce, Democrat incumbent, assistant majority leader, probably, or minority leader, probably was going to be minority leader. He fused with us. He sought to fuse with us. And we worked with him, we worked with the Democratic Party, we worked with all of the people up and down the line on that side to see that he could fuse with us. The Secretary of State said that's illegal, so we sued him. But there was no problem with the party.
And fusion can't happen until we get past the Supreme Court.
Part of what Fusion and Young
Right.
Kansas is doing is anchoring against extremes.
I mean, it's good, it just seems like it's trying to do everything Ranked Choice is doing, except for it makes new obstacles, or Ranked Choice lets every candidate run. Besides talking about, you have some minor parties that can join other parties and stuff like that.
Ranked choice is one is banned again, they like to ban it, but it's,
So is this.
to get to a place where it could be used in Kansas, you'd have to go through litigation, and there isn't a constitutional argument for it.
Right.
So that's why we're trying to reform the house is on fire. We're in an emergency. And the reforms that we have available to us are fusion voting without breaking the entire system. Ranked choice voting requires an entire change of the entire system.
And if
You are not the only one that has said that to us. Every time we do something, they seem to really like ranked choice voting. It is not a choice available to us under our current political structure. And so we went with fusion. Whether fusion will do what we want it to, it tests of time. We just know that we've got to do something different from what we're doing now, because it's the same old thing. You do the same old thing, you're gonna get the same old results. And so we're just trying to come up with something different to break that same old thing.
And I think it will achieve what you're trying to have it achieve until you start running your own candidates, then you're starting to split it.
Well, and you might be right on that, only time will tell. You know, fusion voting worked in the state of Kansas until, a party decided it didn't.
Right.
So change comes with life.
So are you encouraging other political parties to get started then too? Because that's your other route, is when you start splintering up the political landscape enough, where it makes complete sense. You have 3 or 4 different candidates, they're all being backed by 4 or 5 different parties or whatever.
So
Three.
far, we're the only party in the so far, we're the only group that has actually made it to a party. There's been a lot of, no labels.
Right.
There's been the Ford group. They have never been able to get the signatures and go through the process to get as far as we have gotten. We are a party. Those others are not. They are just trying to become one, and they have never. The Ford party kind of has joined us a little bit. The no labels,
Refugees from the Ford Party.
yeah, refugees, thank you, from the Ford party has joined. They can't seem to get the signatures that we were able to get to make the party.
And that was an ordeal. I saw all the signatures in my dining room.
Your question though about multi-partyism is, that's local.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm saying. Are you going to assist if some other party comes up and says, you know what? You're doing you, but
Be an obstacle to anyone growing their party.
No.
So,
will you assist them?
I don't know about assisting them because I don't know how much we could.
So
We
the
can't
state
do
has
that.
outlined the necessary hurdles to becoming a new political party, and there was even a bill trying to make it more difficult. I think we've stirred up just the right amount of animosity from the powers that be to kind of highlight that what we're doing is right. Because when the entrenched powers start to sweat a little bit, well, that means you got to be doing something correct. I would love to see. more
20,000
parties.
signatures.
Yeah, 20,000
They could bump that
signatures.
to 100,000.
Yeah. I would love to see more parties, absolutely. Single issue, multi-issue, absolutely more power to them. We can't go around helping every other party to get set up. That is on them, that is on their initiative. We certainly will not hamper it, but we will encourage it as necessary and as it is the right thing to do. More voices, more discussion, more opportunity.
Fusion in New York has the Working Families Party and they have the Conservative Party. So they have two parties and they're pulling the Democrats and the Republicans farther to the extremes. So the fusion in New York works kind of the opposite of what we're doing, where we're pulling the party to the center since we're a centrist party. We're not a right flank or a left flank. In theory, an RA party could show up or a teachers union party could show up and pull the parties in those directions as well. But right now, we're a centrist party trying to pull the parties to the center.
It's probably just a practical limit, because you get 5 parties and probably a couple are eventually gonna come back together, and probably 3 or 4 is probably a natural, just practical limit that would,
Yeah, but it does, you do see it, multiple political parties, even when we don't have fusion voting, like how the Canada national election just went down. I mean, nobody won a majority, but you have coalitions that can rule together, which is what we're going for.
More parties leads to what coalitions, what you just said, coalitions means we have to compromise and moderation happens. That's the ultimate, that's what the book says.
I think this is a great question. I know in particular with my background in political science, I would love to sit here and we could dive into first past post voting and versus a more plural democracy, the U.S. versus Europe, getting into arguments on both sides, and that would be a great time for me. Not so much the rest of you, I don't think. Always the educators that. These are certainly fair questions, but at the end of the day, Fusion has a history, Fusion has a precedent, Fusion has a constitutional argument, and it is the best tool in our toolbox for what we're looking at. I'm going to go ahead and ask, are there any other questions that you're feeling, comments, concerns, or any other pressure points, especially here in Garden City?
This
Oh, in the back.
reminds me way back in the 90s when Ross Perot and Bush and Clinton run for office.
Ross Perot, yep.
You recall that? So the question is now, going back today, is this party going to split the other two parties?
So that's a great question, and that is a little bit in line with some of what we've been speaking about. For everybody's benefit, the question is, how do we avoid splitting the vote like Ross Perot did? And part of that comes down to our commitment that we've made as a party. As Brent kind of highlighted, there are 3 situations that we look at when we're looking at a race. The first is both candidates are great, both candidates are committed to Kansas, and both candidates want to do the right thing. We're not going to field a candidate in those areas. We're not going to fuse with one over the other, because both of them would be equally great for the situation we're in. The more likely opportunity would be with Fusion is that one of the candidates is much more in line with our values than the other, and so we're going to fuse with them where you would be able to see them on the ballot under their home party, their primary contender from the other major party, and then under our party as well. The third option would be both candidates are terrible, and at that point, we would look at fielding our own traditional third party. In that instance, it's not a spoiler because both sides of the cart are rotten, and we might as well throw out the bathwater, and we're trying to do the right thing and get the right person in. Does that make sense and help answer your question, sir?
In a way, yeah, that's 30 years ago.
The Reform Party has 28% in Kansas. They did well. Not you.
I have a question that isn't really a voting question.
Well,
but-
we're going to go to the gentleman in black hat first, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay, so you outlined before the process to become a United Kansas candidate. It goes to your convention, they say yay or nay, move on. 28 and all of a sudden it's just taken off. And in 28, you come in and you've got a bunch of candidates that say, hey, you know, I'd like to run as that. I'm not technically in office right now, but there are two, you know, there's a Democrat and Republican, let's say, in Sedgwick County. I want to run as a United Kansas candidate. You know, we could split the vote, we could have a good shot at it. But then you come to the convention and say, well, we like the Republican candidate, you know, just stand down, bide your time. You're going to disillusion candidates in the future if you continue to do that. So is this just kind of a short-sighted plan to expand that to maybe a primary eventually?
I'll take it. It is a, it's not so short-sighted as what we have to do at the convention. Once you get 5%, so let's say in 26 that governor candidate gets 5%, not 2%, then we automatically have to do primaries in the future. So you're categorized as a major party once you get 5% in the statewide election. So then it kind of eliminates that problem a little bit, but it's still, it could happen.
Right, that's the only issue there would be the disillusion of the candidates.
I would
at
love,
some point in time.
I would love for us to have that issue.
Right.
I would love to see us grow to that point where we've got folks banging down our door saying this is the best thing ever, seeing the opportunity that it presents, because it means that we do get to be a little choosier with our candidates. We don't just have to say that, you know, I'm 55% Republican and 45% Democrat from the political compass test that I took, so I'm voting for this party, so I'm voting red. We're able to say that we're committed to Kansas and making sure that everything is taken care of. And much to your point, once we cross that threshold, that does give us a little more bargaining power when it comes to the committee chairs, when it comes to the assignments, when it comes to the positions, and whose office is next to the bathroom and whose office is next to the noisy ice machine.
So then if you follow the hypothetical out and you land that, in theory, the fusion voting would work against you in the future, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, that
But-
work against, I think
Well, but then it loses its luster.
I think the key is United Kansas is just trying to create a whole new option and a different culture and these things. And so at some point, you're right, I mean, it could just come into play if Kansas says, we think we're better served by a different combination, then the voters will speak. I mean, and we'll be held to account the same as another major. So I think you're right. It would be up to the United Kansas Party to build and maintain the right culture. This is what we're about. And it's that bridge building aspect that is different. You're right. If we became the big dog, if we got out of line, then we would probably be held to account in return. I think you're right.
But the real goals would be to fuse with the other minority and build that coalition so you have complete majority power.
And as we've said, our true north, our shining star, is doing what is best for the state and not just bowing down to powers that be. So maintaining that accountability through it all. Does that help answer your question? Excellent. All right, back to you, my friend.
Okay, so that was a good segue because what's the best for the state is a good question for this. So you probably noticed driving around some Southwest Kansas, we don't have divided highways. There's a little bit between here and the airport, a little between Cimarron and Dodge City. That's about it. If you look at our traffic on the highways that we have, accounting for truck traffic and all that stuff, we have as much congestion on our non-divided highways as they have on divided highways in eastern Kansas. The issue is we don't have the political power as a community, as a region, to make the case. I mean, we have less and less people proportionally in western Kansas, southwest Kansas. So it's harder and harder for us to make the case, even though we have the traffic, even though our roads is facilitating our economy, as the agricultural economy.
Sure.
We are having problems making any sorts of inroads on that dividing. As a statewide political party, how are you going to talk to your people in Kansas City or in Wichita and say, I know that would be great to build another bypass around Kansas City?
It needs it.
Exactly. When we don't even have a divided highway out there, because exactly what you said, it needs it. It doesn't need it like we need to divide highways because we don't have divided highways, we don't have interstates. And that not only is a safety issue, but it's a commerce issue.
Okay.
So I work at economic development, that's my job.
Sure.
We are out of the running for so many economic projects because we don't have divided highways. So we can make the case traffic-wise, but our real case is the economic-wise. At the same time, we have people from Kansas City say, oh my gosh, we really need another loop around Kansas City. The price to divide 83 from the border from Oklahoma to Nebraska is the same price as just a section of new loop around Kansas City. As a statewide party, when we're the minority, we make up way less people than Kansas City and Wichita. How are you going to represent us?
Why isn't this being met now?
The same
As
reason-
someone who
because we
is,
don't have a
has
political-
background.
We don't have a political pull.
You do have the political pull, and we have gotten out in western Kansas what we've had because of Shannon Francis and Liberal. But he is so scared to help education or anything else because he'll lose his chairmanship and he'll lose what pull he does have to get things out
I'll
here.
give you a counter. One, they always play us against each other.
Yes, they
They play
do.
Dodge and Liberal against Garden. They play Garden and Dodge against Liberal. They do this triangle thing to us all. If all of our population was in one area, we would have the infrastructure like everybody else in the state and across the country has.
Yeah,
The other issue though is, back at T-Works, so before, right now we're on Ike.
okay,
At T-Works,
T-word.
which is, KDOT goes around, does all their, they had a 10-year planning period, now it's a 3-year
Yes,
planning, which
okay,
is way better.
I've got
I will
you.
say, when we talk about Governor Kelly, Governor
Yeah.
Kelly's done more for Southwest Kansas than any of the
Anybody,
companies before.
yeah.
I'm a Republican. District 6, so our district,
Mhm.
Garden, Liberal, and Dodge, all got together and they say, rate the projects where you want the projects. As our communities together, we said our number one project isn't even in District 6, it's dividing District 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, District 5 from Mullinville to Wichita. That's our number one project. We want you to divide that highway because that will benefit all three of our major states. If we can all agree, that's the thing. They came out of that, they said, guys, you guys are great here in Southwest Kansas. You all came together, you decided on something that works together, and you put aside your things, and you even nominated a project that's not even in your district. Guess what still isn't divided 10 years, 15, 20 years later? That didn't do anything for us.
Well,
And the problem is, we don't have the political power, and there is somebody down in Liberal who does do a good poll. He does do a good poll for Liberal. He does do a good poll for Dodge on 54. But when we have the groups that, when we talk about expanding 83, we get a lot of naysayers that say we don't need to expand 83. So, but if we look at the data, the traffic data, 83, 54, 400, all have the traffic that, if it was in eastern Kansas, we'd expect that traffic to be on divided highways already. So these highways that we have out here already has the traffic of divided highways in eastern Kansas. I mean, dividing all the way down to Pittsburgh shouldn't happen. That happened when we were cutting funding from KDOT. Like, we took all the money from KDOT and we still got the highway down to Pittsburgh divided. So obviously it's not a money issue, it's a political issue.
so I can tell you're really passionate about that, and I really appreciate this. My fiance works with KDOT. She is more on the public transit side, and I am constantly asking her, hey, when are they going to fix the potholes in I-70? It is, let me first start by saying it is terrible to hear that there has been what amounts to a broken promise of what do you want to see in your community, and then basically giving you the finger and not doing it. That's not right. And so I can tell you that our commitment as a party is being able to make sure that what these major issues are, the highway system, being able to divide it out, taxes and homeowner relief for folks who are no longer able to afford their homes because they're on a fixed income, and property taxes going up every year is killing them. Food scarcity and being able to find good, healthy, nutritious food in America's breadbasket. It is our commitment to making sure that it's done right, and we hear you that this is a grave concern. I I can't tell you any more about the project. It certainly sounds like you've done quite a lot of research to it, but as United Kansas, as we pick up individuals, if we pick up individuals, God willing, in this area, and if that is the project that everybody wants to work on, then it is absolutely what we would be able to see what we can do for it.
Do you know, I don't think we can sit here and promise to say we can cure that. But what we're doing isn't working. And so I go back to, maybe this would draw and be interested to a candidate that will go to Topeka and sit there and say, I'm not voting for your stuff until you vote for my roads. You know, we had a great, I love John Dahl, but maybe not everybody does, but he really tried to represent this area, and he did a lot on, I'm not doing this if you don't. And we just gotta raise this up out here as the highway. I know, I was your state representative, so I represented Pratt to Colorado, from Nebraska to Oklahoma, and I drove the average of 33,000 miles a year on 2-lane roads. And I knew I was gonna die between Larned and Great Bend. I just knew I was gonna die there. But I don't think we can say that this new party, we can just say that we wanna hold our candidates accountable. But you, as a community, have got to get behind them and hold the candidates accountable also.
Yeah, and that's just an example. My main question is, how as a statewide party, is that party gonna balance urban issues versus rural issues when we're trying to represent everybody?
I think part of
We'll go ahead and wrap that up. We do have another question in the back. But with how we're gonna hold everybody accountable, it's your power of the vote. It's holding these town halls to see what's necessary. It's understanding that the needs of Liberal versus Garden City versus Wichita, Topeka, and Kansas City is gonna be different, and our folks are going to have to represent their constituents out there. But it is also going to be that commitment to making sure that everybody is looked at and needed. We're gonna go ahead and
I
go
want to
back.
say one thing.
Oh.
You know, your representative, you've got to know when they are giving you an excuse and when you need to hold their foot to the fire. And I think as a voter, that's very difficult for us to know. Because right now, I am hearing so many excuses, it makes me sick. And we are accepting it. So I think you have a great point.
A friend in the back?
You know, in the mid-1990s, I'm sure Mr. Hyman can remember, back then, they wanted to secede it, I think 7 counties, the 7 cities, the 6 cities wanted to secede it with Kansas because they would have no representation.
Can you speak up just a little bit, my friend?
The reason why, back in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, there were like 4 cities or 5 cities in western Kansas wanted to secede it away from Kansas because of the no representation. A good example was the U.S. was paying $400 to $500 million in tax in oil revenue, but they wouldn't get no representation. So they went that direction. Anyway, during the time of the mid-90s, he had 7 people running for governor, which is government race with one. But at the same time, you had 2 or 3 people, if I'm not mistaken, that were chairpersons in the committee. During that time, we did see some things taking place in western Kansas. It's going back to Mr. Dick, what he was saying. We have no representation, but back then in the mid-90s, we did, because things were taken care of. Then all of a sudden, we lost those seats. That's what happened in the mid-90s.
Okay. And I can tell you, the current system is not going to do representation any favors because the supermajority that's held feels like they are currently doing everything that they need to and don't feel like they have to listen to it. I have an anecdote I love to share. We've seen where an individual was sharing with us the constitutional amendment that's coming up this August for whether or not the judges need to be a direct election. It's going to politicize an entire third of our government, and that creates issues, that creates concerns. He called his representative upset about it, rightfully so, and said, hey, this is unacceptable. What are you going to do about it? And his elected representative said, well, here in the House, I'm voting yes. But in August, when it's actually put out for a constitutional vote, I'm voting no. And the fact that one of our representatives is going to vote one way in the House and then is going to vote the other way when it is up and available as a referendum to the general public, in my mind, is unacceptable. I might be an idealist for that. I've always thought that you need to vote your representative, your constituents. You need to vote your conscience. You need to understand that you are representing so many more people than just yourself. And the reason behind that is because of the current system, because he's looking out for who's buttering his bread, to use one of my grandfather's favorite terms. And he is voting that way so he does not get primaried, because he is afraid of the political machine that currently exists. United Kansas offers that opportunity to break that machine, to try and stick back against it, to say that there is an alternative, there is a better way. It is through our commitment to our people, and we're not going to ask someone to vote one way just for a donor list. We're not going to ask folks to vote one way or else threaten that we're going to primary them. That doesn't make a good democracy. That doesn't make a good republic. That does not make a good state. There was a second point that I have now spaced on. The coffee is worn off, and I apologize. Does that help answer?
Yes, yes. I mean, history repeats itself.
Sure. It likes to rhyme.
Part of the challenge that is the common theme is how do you build and maintain a bottom-up process? It's like you start crashing up against this top-down, like, hey, it sounds great, we've got some momentum, and then because of whatever deal was made in some other setting, feet taken right up. And so part of it is that effort to establish and fight to maintain that different culture and process, bottom up instead of top down.
I just want to say one comment before I leave.
Sure.
And that is this, my parents, we grew up Democratic, being Latino, in Western Kansas, migrant workers, we grew up Democrats. Then I joined the military, and me and four of my brothers joined the military. And all of us got moved into the Republican area while we were in the military. It was just
Sure.
got out of the military, thought I was going to vote for Republican for the rest of my life, and then all of a sudden, I couldn't vote Republican anymore. I was done. I was just done, and I'm like, who do I vote for now? Where do I belong? I don't belong in the Democratic Party. I definitely don't belong in the Republican Party. So I applaud you for what you're trying to do. I hope it works. I'll be a supporter.
Thank you.
Just think that there has to be something different. You need to get this man on board to help you do this, because he's one of the people that I respect, and I value him what he says. And so when he starts saying, hey, this is a good thing, I will probably jump on it even more. But I just wanted to applaud you for what you're trying to do, but I think it's moving in the right direction. You gotta get some Latinos on board though.
Say it.
Yes.
You gotta get some Latinos on board.
How is
Well-
immigration as an issue here? That hasn't come up, but it came up in liberal.
Oh, it's come up here.
It's,
Here.
I mean, at this meeting,
Oh.
is it an issue?
In Garden City?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some, not much, but there's been some ice around the area. The reality, just them being in Kansas, is scaring the heck out of our people.
Right.
I mean, there's people, students that were scared to go to school, there's families that are scared to go to work, so it's just something we deal with on a daily basis.
But it's not always been that way, right? Or has it?
No, it's not all.
Sure.
which was on the backs of immigration, which was done legally at the time and whatever. So, I mean, we now, you can't tell by who's in this room, but we have more than 50% minority population in Garden City. I've seen more than that down in Liberal. If we look at our school district, it's like 75% Hispanic.
95.
Robert saying we need to get the Latino vote to be there because I believe if you look at they voted Republican last time, which is most likely not in their best interest. So there definitely is a need for that.
I want to say one thing.
Thank you so much for speaking up.
I want to address your comment in the back. I served on a panel at KU 6 years ago, Steve, 7, on the migration of western Kansas to eastern Kansas. A lot of that, this is my opinion, okay? I don't know if the statistics show it or not. My opinion is a lot of that migration has taken place because of the roads need to be to where businesses can get their products, okay? And they keep putting past the roads. Then they come at us, and what they're coming at us hard now is education. And they're saying, oh, our education is so bad because the kids are only scoring this amount on, but they've given so little money to education, we can't pay our teachers. We can't get a teacher licensed because no one wants to go into teaching. Education is all about the teacher in the classroom. And if you can't put those qualified and excellent teachers in the classroom, that's going to go down. They're creating the environment, I believe, in Topeka that makes western Kansas a stepchild, and the policies they pass are making us who we are today, because we are not in better shape out here than we were when we came to western Kansas in '79. It
I'm
looks
just gonna follow it up real quick. You don't get to answer this. You have to
Okay.
answer. Divide the state geographically into thirds, western, central, east. How many universities do we have in western Kansas?
Hayes.
I guess everybody can answer this.
Yeah, but we have better community colleges.
Zero. We have zero
Well, other than
universities.
Newman's partnership with Garden City Community College.
Yeah,
Shameless plug.
we have
Visit
zero.
them.
Hayes isn't.
Hayes is geographically in the center third of the state.
Yeah.
Really?
We have zero universities. The attainment level of high school as the highest education in Garden City, Finney County versus the state is equal. The attainment level of community college and technical between Garden City and the rest of the state is equal. Bachelor's degree is half the rate in Garden City. Master's level is half the rate in Garden City compared to everything else. When we have the opportunities, when we have a school, when we have elementary school, and we have high school, and we have a community college or technical school, we're achieving the same rate. As soon as we don't have those opportunities, because we have to drive 2 hours to the closest high school or a college, that's when we lose the people. The reason we lose our youth is because we have to export them all out. Hayes, best case scenario, because we know we can get them back here. Most likely K-State, KU, we lose them because they're not even part of our economic. I can show you, they're not even
Yeah.
part of our economic system. So.
But you're just proving my point.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to know for the other people
Mhm.
that what our university system is.
20 years ago,
And
when Martha went down, we did a survey quite some time ago. 33% had a third grade level, 33% had a fourth, fifth grade level, and 33% had a eighth, ninth, and 10% had a high school and college. This is 21 years ago when Martha burned down, okay? You fast forward today, we're more educated than ever before. You have more kids, Hispanic kids graduating from college than ever before. It's going back to Richard, what Mr. Big was saying. It's finding the adequate jobs that would pay them a decent salary.
Yeah.
You're right, they'll move us, okay? I don't blame them at all. But here's what we're gonna be facing down the road, which we are now facing. AI is gonna be taking care of our jobs. There's no question about it. I mean, it's starting now. It's not 10 years from now. No, it's now. The question is, even to Mr. People in college, what is the future jobs of tomorrow? We don't know. No one knows. So it's something that we're going to be facing, not just us, everyone is going to be facing that. It's scary, but it's exciting at the same time.
Yeah, sure. And
Katie?
Rick, I just wanted to come back and, one thing I think is really important, because we're a nascent party. I mean, we're so young, we're gonna be formed by the people joining the effort. I know in Sedgwick County, we have, some young Latinos who are interested in starting to join as an executive committee for United Kansas. As we're starting to build out, I think that's really gonna be essential, that we just make sure that the people at the table represent our communities. And so I think that's gonna be a part of this, is we need to make sure that we just are engaging, and as this thing grows, it does look like the people of Kansas. I think that's gonna be really essential to the representation.
If you do another one in Jordan, I'll bring some other people that represent.
We'd love to hear it.
We will come back if you ask us to come back, because we have a whole state to cover. But what we told people in Liberal is that we will come back for a coffee, we will come back for whatever you arrange, but we will come back if you invite us back.
Fantastic.
As we're coming down to the end of our 2 hours here, and my gosh, I feel like I have blinked with how quickly this has gone, but you know what they say, time flies when you're having fun. I would like to first start by thanking all of you for taking a little bit of time. 2 to 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon is typically prime time for chores around my house, or a whole lot of nothing. So being able to take this time to come together and hear from you here in the community, and be able to share a little bit about ourselves, is so very deeply meaningful. And we appreciate everybody coming out to listen to us speak, as well as to share some of your concerns with it. As far as what comes next, get involved with us, please. I have unfortunately forgotten all of my business cards with the contact information on it, but we are able, we would love to get you plugged in. We have a website, we have all of our social media. We cannot grow this on our own, and it comes down to folks having those conversations. People do not want to have someone from Topeka, someone from Manhattan, someone from Wichita come down and try and tell them about politics. All of this is through my Vice Chair, Sally Cobble, putting this on, because this is her backyard. You are her folks. But you are also our folks as Kansans. And so being able to have those conversations with your neighbors, our country is not as nearly as divided as it might seem via social media, but there is still work to be done with all of us being able to come together. If you can, please consider donating. Politics is unfortunately very expensive, and we don't want any sort of financial issues to be a hamper for the right folks being able to join and being able to keep those promises that are so necessary and precious to be made. We will hang around as long as our gracious hosts will allow us to. We'd love to visit with all of you. I would love to visit with all of you. Please grab one of our buffalo from the back. We love seeing our herd go out into the world. They are squishy, they're fun, and I've had mine thrown at me a couple of times and it bounces right off. Thank you all so much for coming out and being part of this today.